Welcome back to Very Good Yoga with Billy. My name is Billy, and for today's class, make sure you have 2 blocks. As always, if you don't have 2 blocks, a fat stack of books, or maybe even a couple of loaded water bottles, I think are great alternatives. Let's get started. Come into a Sphinx Pose. Lower onto your belly and bring your forearms down to the ground. When you bring your forearms into this position, make sure that they're parallel with one another. So I know a lot of times people like to bring their hands together. Don't do that. Keep the palms, the forearms, and the elbows separate. And then press the palms, the forearms, and the elbows down into the floor to get a little bit more length with the chest and the ears into the ceiling. Don't move your arms when you do this, but try to drag the elbows back into the hips to lengthen the spine forwards into the heart. Keep doing this work with the arms and begin to activate your legs. Press your toenails into the floor and lift the kneecaps off the ground. Look forwards, and without shifting onto your left side, just hover the right foot a little bit off the floor and point your toes back. Keep your right knee lifted, bring the foot back to the ground. And without shifting onto your right side, hover the left foot just a little bit off the floor and point your toes back. Keep the left knee lifted, bring your foot back down. And without shifting onto your left side, hover the right foot a little bit off the floor. Keep your toes pointed and begin to use your right hamstring to curl the heel towards the butt. Maybe you can lift the toes and the legs a little bit more off the floor. And then with control, slowly re-extend the right leg. Hover for just a moment. Keep the right knee lifted and bring the right foot back down. Second side, hover the left foot an inch or 2 off the floor. Use the left hamstring to bend into the left knee. Try to pull the heel towards your tush. Could you lift the thigh and the toes a little higher into the ceiling? Re-extend the left leg. Hover just a little bit off the floor. And then with the knee lifted, bring it back to the floor. Without shifting onto your left side, hover the right foot a little bit off the ground. With control, use your hamstring to bend into the knee. This time, I'm going to have you flex through the right foot as if you could leave a footprint on the ceiling above you. Pulse the foot and the thigh off the floor for 5, 4, 3, 2, last 1. Point your toes. With control, re-extend the right leg. Hover for a moment. Right knee stays lifted. Put the right foot on the floor. Last side, without shifting onto your right side, hover the left foot a little bit off the floor. Keep the toes pointed to start as you curl and bend the left knee. Flex through the left foot as if you could leave a footprint on the ceiling above you. And then pulse the thigh and the heel off the floor for 5, 4, 3, 2, last 1. Point your toes, straighten out your legs, pause and hover for a moment. Left foot is down, and then lower the chest with your hands by your shoulders. Tuck your toes. And for a really brief moment, press your way back to a tuck-toed child's pose. So I want you to stretch out through the bottoms of the feet, and maybe you press the palms down more to sink your hips back towards your heels. Come into a tabletop, all fours, hands and knees. And before we move through cow and cat, establish your base in tabletop. Straighten out your arms and press your palms down. Press your feet and your shins down into the ground. And then with that really strong foundation, use your hips on an inhale. Come into cow pose. Look forward. Lift the chest and the ears up last. And then use your chest to initiate the movement as you exhale around the spine. Drop your tail and pelvis down last. And we'll do that 2 more times. Initiate the movement with your hips. As you inhale, look forward, come into cow, ears come up last. Use your chest to initiate the movement as you exhale around your spine. So the hips and the tailbone are the last thing to go down. Last round like this, use your hips. Inhale, cow pose, ears lift up last. Using your chest on an out breath, round the spine, drop your head and tailbone down. And we'll move through that a few more times. And this should be a fairly slow and thoughtful movement. So I almost want you to think about this like a wave, right? So as you inhale, come forward into cow. It's your hips, it's your tailbone that initiate the movement. So the chest and the ears come up last. And then vice versa, you counter that wave by using your chest and your head so that the tailbone goes down last. Finishing up whatever you're working on, the inhale brings you forward into your cow. Walk your hands forward an inch. Downward facing dog is the out breath. Send the hips up high. So to continue to warm up our shoulders and measure out our downward facing dog, on an inhale, look forward, shift forward, come into a plank pose. Keep your hands and feet where they are. Exhale, downward facing dog, send the hips up high. And we'll do that 2 more times. Inhale, look forward, shift forward, plank pose. To downward facing dog, send the hips up and back. Last one, inhale, look forward, shift forward to your plank shape. Downward facing dog, send the hips up and back. Look forward, heel, toe, step, hop, spring, or handstand to a forward fold at the top of the mat. So your feet will be about hips width distance apart, which you can measure out with 2 fists. Inhale, flat back, reach the heart forwards. Exhale, fold. Press your feet down. On your next inhale, come up to stand, Urdhva Hastasana. And then try to stay as tall as you are right now as you slowly lower your arms by the sides for a Tadasana. Turn your palms forward. Inhale, Urdhva. Reach the arms out and up. Lift your belly, hinge at your hips. Forward fold is your exhale. Keep your hands on the floor. Inhale, halfway lift. Look forward, step, step, plank pose. So you have this long neck when you look about a foot in front of your mat. And as you try to reach the crown of the head away from the heels, reach the heels away from the crown of the head. Lift your belly, press your palms down, inhales lengthen. Chaturanga is the out breath, lower halfway. Inhale, come up into your back bend, upward facing dog, lift the thighs up. Downward facing dog, use your belly to send your hips up and back. Keep the gaze right in between your feet. And you guys remember that 2 fists width distance we did to measure out our feet and a forward fold. To measure out your feet, hips width distance in downward facing dog, come up onto the ball of either or foot and pivot. So the opposite heel lines up with the opposite arch. So if you were looking at your feet, it would look a little something like that. Boop. Full breath in. On empty, look forward, bend into the knees, hop, spring, or step to a forward fold at the top of your mat. Inhale, flat back, crown of the head forward. Exhale, fold. Maybe use your hands to pull yourself into your thighs. Press your feet down. Inhale, come up to stand, Urdhva Hastasana. Keep the length, stay this tall, and slowly lower your arms by the sides. Tadasana. Inhale the arms out and up. Uttanasana, swan dive forward. Inhale, flat back, look forward with your eyes and your chest, and then keep looking forward. Chaturanga, either step, or land with bent elbows. Inhale, come up into your back bend, straight arms and legs. Downward facing dog is the exhale. So folks, when you're transitioning from a flat back into a chaturanga, you really have two options. Step, plank and lower with control, or land with bent elbows. So if you're jumping, don't jump to plank, just because your bent elbows are much better shock absorbers than your straight arms will ever be. Inhale. On empty, look forward, bend into the knees, hop, spring, or step to a forward fold at the top of your space. So as soon as you get there, inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come up to stand, reach the arms up high. And then keep the length and slowly lower your arms by the sides. Tadasana. Inhale the arms out and up. Urdhva. Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Look forward with your eyes in your chest. Keep the gaze forward. Chaturanga is the out breath. Inhale, find your back bend, upward facing dog. And as you exhale, downward facing dog. Please lift the right leg up into a three-legged dog. I'm actually going to turn around so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to demo something in just a second. So the right leg is lifted. The right leg is straight and your right heel is reaching back like it could land a footprint on the wall behind you. Press your palms down and forward to lift the sides of the waist up and back. Full breath in. Exhale, knee in between the elbows, hold the pose. Reach your left heel back and your right knee forwards. Look forward with your eyes and keep your right hand on the floor. Start to come up onto tented left fingertips. Could you hover the left hand off the floor and reach it up and alongside your body? We're going to make our way into this variation of a bird, dog, down, dog. So the left fingers reach back. The right hand presses down and your eyes are locked in, something that's not moving on the mat. For 5, 4, 3, for 2, put your left hand down and step your right foot forward to come up into a low lunge. Left knee is down, untuck the toes, inhale, sweeps the arms up high. And if you're feeling pretty good about your low lunge today, bring your palms together overhead. Maybe if it's okay on the neck, you look up and see your thumbs with your eyes. Press your feet down and try and pull the right heel towards the back knee, almost like you're going to hamstring curl your yoga mat. One more breath. Forward fold is the exhale. Step your back foot up to meet your front foot. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Bend deep into your knees and come into a chair pose. Inhale, lift the heart and the chest up high. If the palms together was pretty good for you before, maybe you bring your palms together overhead here. So the biceps wrap back, the triceps wrap forward. Look forward, keep your arms and palms lifted, straighten out your legs, come up to stand. And then keep the height and bring your arms down by your sides for Tadasana. Inhale, chair pose, bend to the knees, palms together over the head. Belly to your thighs, hands to your floor. Forward fold is the Exhale. Inhale, long spine, even your neck. Exhale, step the right foot back. Ground the right heel down. Warrior one. Inhale, come all the way up to stand. Chaturanga is the exhale, lower halfway. Inhale finds your back bend, upward facing dog. Toenails press down. And on your exhale, downward facing dog, send the hips up high. Lift your left leg up into a three-legged dog, please. Keep the left leg straight and flex the foot like you could leave a footprint on the wall behind you. Press your palms down, lift the sides of the waist up and back, full breath in. And on your exhale, bring the knee in between the elbows. So this is not knee to nose. It's knee in between the elbows. So you're reaching the crown of the head forward to keep the length in the neck. Keep your left hand on the floor and start to come up onto tented right fingertips. Maybe you can reach the right arm alongside your body. And maybe could you make your way up into this variation of a bird, dog, down dog. Yeah, you might need to put everything down for a second and set up the shape once you're lifted in this three-legged dog. Do your best. For 5, 4, 3, for 2, put your right hand down and step your left foot forward, low lunge. Lower the right knee to the floor, and on an inhale, sweep the arms up high. And if this spoke to you on the first side, bring your palms together over your head. Press the feet down, go down and forward with your hips. And then lift up and out of the belly. Maybe even look up and see your palms connected. Last breath. Forward fold is the exhale. Step the back foot up to meet your front foot. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, chair pose, bend into the knees. Lift the heart and the chest up high. Keep your arms over your head and bring your palms together to touch. Wrap the biceps back, the triceps forwards. Keep the arms straight and lifted. Come up to stand. And bring your arms by the sides for Tadasana. Inhale, chair pose, bend deep into the knees. Palms connect over your head. Belly to thighs, hands to floor. Forward fold is the exhale. Inhale, flat back, crown of the head forward, shoulders away from your ears. Look forward, step your left foot back. Ground your left heel down, warrior one. Inhale, come up to stand. Chaturanga is the exhale, lower halfway. Inhale finds your back bend, upward facing dog. And as you exhale, downward facing dog, 5 breaths. Melt your heels and your calves down to the floor. And press your thighs back into your hamstrings. And lift your butt up as high as your butt will lift. Full breath in. On empty, look forward, bend into the knees, hop, spring, or step to a forward fold at the top of your mat. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, chair pose, bend into the knees, lift the heart and the chest up. This time, as you look forward, bring your hands to a prayer position at your heart. And twist to the right. Hook the left elbow outside of the right thigh. Reach your hips and tailbone down and back. And then do the work of an up dog as you reach the tips of the ears forward. Stay in the twist and pluck your right foot off at the floor. So you're only going to have the left foot on the ground. Keep the left elbow connected to the outside of the thigh for as long as you can. And please come up into an Utthita C. So eventually your hand will find your shin, your thigh, maybe your foot. And the right arm will reach back into space. Press the left foot down, straighten out the standing leg more, and try to lift the crown of the head as far away from your standing leg as possible. Okay. So super brief on this transition. Coming into an Utthita A, switch your hands, grab your right shin, thigh, or foot with your right hand. Reach the left arm straight up into the ceiling and take a full inhale. Utthita B, reach your left arm out to the side and open up your hip. So I'll actually turn and show you what I'm doing for just a moment. So your left arm will be like completely out to the side to what should be your 9 o'clock. But that being said, you're not opening up the leg as far as you could open it. You're trying to emphasize your hip bones pointing straight ahead. So the right leg goes to more or less like a 2 o'clock position. Maybe this is where you stay. But if you'd like to play with the drishti, bring the right eyeball to the left thumb. Reach the outer left hip down towards your inner left heel. And then come back through center. Keep the right leg lifted and reach both arms straight up into the air. Straighten out the right leg in front of you. Take a full breath in. Keep the right leg lifted as you exhale. Pendulum mid down, pendulum mid back. Make a pit stop in Warrior 3. Standing split into a forward fold. Step your right foot next to your left foot. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, chair pose. Last one, bend into the knees. Look forwards. Bring your hands to a prayer position at the heart and twist to the left. Hook the right elbow outside of the left thigh and press your palms together to turn your heart center toward your thumb knuckles. Reach your hips and tailbone down and back. And find the work of a flat back in your torso as you reach the ears forward. Stay in the twist. Keep the right foot on the floor and pluck the left foot off the ground. Making your way up into Utthita C. Keep the elbow connected outside of the thigh for as long as you can. Until eventually you find this more upright position, grabbing onto your shin, thigh, or foot. I feel like this is something I say a lot when I teach this pose. I'm not so interested in whether or not you can grab your foot, your shin, your thigh, or whatever. Emphasize standing up tall. Press the right foot down and straighten out your standing leg. Lift the ears up into the ceiling, almost like someone is pulling you up there. Making your way into the briefest of Utthita A's. Switch your hands, left hand, left leg. Right arm lifts up into the ceiling. Stay for the inhale. And then open to your Utthita B on the exhale. Reach the right arm to your 3 o'clock. Keep your 2 hip bones pointing forwards. And just be aware how much you're opening the left leg to the side. If this was good for you on the first side, bring your left eyeball to your right thumb. Reach the outer right hip down towards the inner right heel. So it's almost like you're doing the work of a Tadasana in the standing leg on the floor. Come back through center, Utthita A. Keep the left leg lifted, reach the left arm high. Straighten the left leg out in front of you, take a full breath in. Keep your left leg lifted as you pendulum it down, pendulum it back, pendulum it up. Briefest of pit stops in Warrior 3. Standing split into a forward fold. Step your left foot down to meet your right foot. Let's take a Bakasana crow pose. Bring your big toes together to touch and plant your palms on the floor. Come up high onto the balls of the feet and look forward with your eyes in your chest. Place the knees on the backs of the triceps. Keep looking forward. And maybe you can get your feet off the floor. Press your palms down really well. And hug the elbows and the inner thighs towards one another. Whoa. Chaturanga. Vinyasa. Downward facing dog. You might just like sneak it back from that crow. You might have just taken like a baby Malasana and maybe just step. If you guys ever want to skip Vinyasas, by the way, you're always more than welcome to. If you need more, take more. And if you need less, take less. Step your right foot forward and please meet me in a Warrior 1. Inhale, come up to stand. Exhale, cactus your arms, squeeze your shoulder blades together and find an interlace at your lower back. Without flaring your ribs. Inhale, knuckles low, heart and chest up high. Exhale, humble your warrior, bow your torso to the inside of the front right leg. Hug the outer right hip in and the outer left hip forwards. Notice if you're putting all the weight to the front foot and see if you can utilize the back left foot and leg more. Warrior 1, inhale, come up to stand. And on the out breath, open to Warrior 2, and we'll take 5 rounds of breath here. So to measure out your Warrior 2, make sure that the hands and the wrists are over the feet and the ankles. Bend into the front right leg, go down with your hamstring, but then lift up and out of the belly. Straighten out the front right leg. Heel toe shorten your stance a little bit, so it's about 1 leg's distance between your front and back foot. Firm the outer left hip in. Hinge at your right hip, Konasana triangle pose. So your hand will find your shin, maybe a block, maybe the floor outside of the front foot if you can. Press your feet down, lift the thigh bones up. And then again, you might stay here, but if you're really enjoying this work with the drishti today, bring the right eyeball up to your left thumb. So where the gaze goes, the body goes as well. So I think if you look up in a shape like triangle pose, it's going to help you keep your shoulders stacked. Okay. We're going to come into half moon, but there's a little bit of a twist here. If you're looking up, keep your gaze skywards. So your right eye is locked in on your left thumb. Softly bend into the front right knee. Walk your right hand forward and eventually float the back leg off the floor. And I think it's a little nerve-wracking because you're not quite sure where you're going with that transition. You can't really see what's in front of you. So you have to trust that it's going to be okay. And if you have to look down for a second, not a big deal. And if you're not feeling the drishti, you don't have to do it. Reach your left heel back like you could leave a footprint on the wall behind you. And reach the crown of the head forward like you could take a headstand on the wall in front of you. Inhales, lengthen. Extended side angle with the right hand outside of the right foot. Reach the top arm forward. So it's like you're trying to get the left hand as far away from the back foot as possible. Bring the right hand outside of the right foot so the right thigh can press into the right arm. Turn your chest up into the ceiling. And take one more breath. Exhale, step to plank first, and then lower Chaturanga. Move through a Vinyasa, and then take it back to downward facing dog. So I like to take a break in plank before going down into my Chaturanga, just so I can set everything up before I initiate the movement. Lower your forearms and please come into a Dolphin Pose. So just like we did in Sphinx at the very beginning of class, your palms, your forearms, and your elbows are parallel with one another and are pressing down into your yoga mat. Make sure that your shoulders are stacked above the elbows. And if it's okay, walk your feet in a little closer to the body so you can lift the hips higher into the air. 5, 4, 3, for 2, press your palms down simultaneously. If you can, lift your elbows and forearms off the mat. And then step your left foot forward and come into Virabhadrasana A. Warrior 1, inhale, come up. Exhale, cactus the arms. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. And when you find the interlace of the lower back, bring the opposite thumb on top. So your grip should feel a little weird. Reach your knuckles low. Lift the heart and the chest up high. Inhale. Humble your warrior on the exhale. So the torso is to the inside of the front left leg. I forgot to mention this before. If you want a modification, you could rest the shoulder on top of the thigh. Outer left butt underneath you. Outer right hip forwards. Press into the back right leg. Press to the right foot. Keep the right leg straight. Warrior 1, inhale, come up to stand. Open to Warrior 2 in the out breath, and we'll hold here for about 5 rounds of breath. And most likely, you're not going to land perfectly in Warrior 2 when you get there. So take a moment, fidget a little bit, set yourself up, but then hold. I think fidgeting, generally is pretty, frowned upon in yoga, right? But, this is like a mindful fidget when you set up these postures. And then once you've done all the things that you know you need to do and you've gotten everything into place, just stay there and breathe. Straighten out the front left leg. Heel toe shorten your stance a little bit so you're about one leg's distance. Hinge at your left hip and make your way into your Konasana triangle pose. So the left hip is reaching down towards your right heel. The outer right hip firms into the body almost like a Tadasana would do. And if you're feeling pretty good here, left eyeball goes skywards to the right thumb. Feet press down, thighs lift up. And then if you have your gaze up, try to keep it there. We're going to make our way up into a half moon pose. Heel toe shorten your stance. Now see if you can float the back right leg off the floor. And if you gotta look to come up, just look to come up. It's not that big of a deal. Imagine someone's pulling you skywards by your right wrist. So it's almost like you're getting light through your hand on the ground. Reach the crown of the head forward, your right heel towards the back wall. One more breath. Extended side angle. Step the right foot to the back of the mat and reach the right arm forward. You have the side body lengthening in the right waist. Your chest turns and twists up into the ceiling. Carve the left hip underneath you. And straighten out the back right leg more. Inhale. Exhale is plank first, then Chaturanga. Inhale, come up into your back bend, upward facing dog. And when you cannot inhale anymore, exhale to your downward facing dog. Lower your forearms and come into Dolphin Pose. So again, make sure that your forearms and your palms are parallel with one another. And if you have to lower your knees for a second to get your arms in a better position, I think that's a great idea. Shoulders are over the elbows. And then walk your feet forward. And maybe this is where you stay. Maybe you can walk your feet a little further forward. So all of a sudden your hips are super lifted. Keep your gaze at the ground right in between your forearms and breathe softly for 5, 4, 3, for 2, child's pose on 1. Lower your knees, sink your hips to your heels, and take rest. So obviously we just did some work on our shoulders. So if you would like, take embryo pose to give your shoulders a break. Reaching your arms back so your hands find your heels. And breathe. And as you start to tap back into your breath, control your exhales. So even though like maybe you're a little winded, I know I'm a little winded, keep the mouth sealed. So when we inhale and exhale through the nose, it actually slows the body and the brain down a little bit more. But like sometimes, you know, we're just working really hard. You gotta let out a big exhale, just like, and that's fine, you know? And I think that's one of the things that yoga and even meditation teaches us is to catch ourselves in those moments. I think that's one of the things that it teaches us is to try to remain calm and try to remain steady. Even when we're doing tough poses like dolphin or crow or, whatever you would consider a hard poses. I know those are the poses that are really hard for me. Maybe those are really relaxing poses for you. Last 5, 4, 3. For 2, we're going to make our way back to downward facing dog on 1. And with this last piece of standing flow, I'm going to give you an opportunity at some point to invert, to get upside down. So if you have a wall nearby, you don't necessarily have to move your mat to that wall space. Maybe just keep like a mind's eye where it is for now. Downward facing dog whenever you're ready. Whew. All right. So from your downward facing dog, please step your right foot forward to your right thumb. Keep your left hand on the floor and put your right hand on top of your right thigh. Hook the left elbow outside of the leg. And you'll notice your right hand, what I want you to do is manually try to get the armpit outside of the thigh. Once you feel like you've gone more or less as far as you want to go here, come into a prayer twist with the palms together. Now, maybe this is where you stay. Maybe this is it, and this is fine. But if you want a little bit more, put your left hand on the floor, maybe a block, and reach the right arm up into the ceiling. If you would like, option to go for a half or even a full bind. If you're going for the full bind, left arm underneath the front right thigh, right arm over the lower back. So the objective is you're trying to hold hands with yourself at the inner left hip. If the bind is too much too soon, you can always use a strap or just hold on to your clothing. Or just stay open with the arms. These are all great alternatives. Full breath in. Warrior 2 is the out breath. Come up to stand and right away, straighten out the front right leg and shorten your stance about one leg's distance. Hinge at your right hip and begin to make your way into your Konasana triangle pose. Put your hand on your shin or somewhere outside of the front right foot. If you would like a little bit more core work in your triangle pose, bend to the left elbow and bring the hand behind the head. Maybe could you bend into the right elbow and interlace your hands around the base of the skull. If you can see your elbows in your peripheral at all, open up your arms more until you can. For 5, 4, 3. For 2, softly bend the right knee on 1 and take it to a half moon. Right hand on the floor, possibly a block. If you would like to take a Shavasana here, reach the left arm back, bend into the left knee, and if it's available, grab a hold of the outside of the left foot, left shin. If you don't have the foot, you can still bend into the knee. You can still reach the left arm back. Honestly, I think that's harder than the Shavasana variation. Kick into your hand if you have it. So you're creating space between your heel and your tush. Without slingshotting the foot, half moon, take a full breath in. Extended side angle, step the left foot back. Reach the left arm forward, take another inhale. Exhale, step to plank, and then lower chaturanga. Inhale finds your back bend, upward facing dog. And on your exhale, downward facing dog. Lower your forearms and come into dolphin. And again, if you need to drop your knees for a second and measure out your arms, do that. And when you're ready, lift the right leg up. So now you're in a 3-legged dolphin. Maybe this is where you stay. But if you'd like to take 3 to 5 L-shaped hops and pinch your Mayurasana, look down in between your forearms. Keep your right leg as straight as the right leg will straighten. Take an inhale. Bend into the left knee and see if you can get some hang time on the exhale. Woo! And then when you're done, please meet me in a child's pose. Sink your hips to your heels. And again, if you're enjoying the embryo pose, give your shoulders a break. And reach your arms back and grab your heels. For 5, 4, 3. For 2. Make your way back to downward facing dog on 1. And guys, if you ever need more child's pose, please take more child's pose. If you ever need a break in the middle of a flow, take your break. That's one of the nice things about home practices and like YouTube classes, right? You can like literally pause the video and jump back in whenever you're ready. Sometimes I'll be in child's pose in a class. I'm like, oh, I don't want to miss anything. And I don't rest when I actually like secretly really want to rest. Down dog. Silver lining, am I right? Step your left foot forward and come into runner's lunge, last side. Keep your right hand on the floor to start and put your left hand on top of your left thigh. Setting up for a prayer twist. Get the belly out of the way as you connect the right elbow outside of the left leg. Press your palms together and begin to feed the heart and the ears forward. Straighten out the right leg. And if you want to open up your arms, put your right hand on the floor, maybe a prop, and the left arm skywards. If you'd like to turn this into a bind, drape the left arm over the lower back and weave the right arm underneath the front left thigh. So holding hands with yourself, your clothing, or potentially a strap. Smooth and steady breath. Inhale. Warrior 2 is the exhale. Come up to stand and right away straighten out the front left leg. Shorten your stance so it's about 1 leg's distance between your front heel and your back arch. Firm the right hip in. Hinge at your left hip, Konasana triangle pose. So remember that the back leg is doing the work of Tadasana. This isn't like a sassy hip where like everything goes back. Only the left hip goes back. Option to stay here. But if you'd like a little bit more, begin to bend into the right elbow and place your hand behind your head. Maybe you can bend into the left elbow. Interlace your hands behind your head, but try to do the opposite webbing. So it should feel a little weird. Press your feet down, feed the bottom left rib cage forward, and breathe for 5, 4, 3, for 2, bend the left knee on 1, and come right up into a half moon pose. Float the right foot off the floor. Reach the right arm high to the sky. If you'd like to take that Shavasana variation, reach the right arm back. Use your right hamstring to bend into the right knee and see if you can grab the outside of the foot and or shin. Kick your foot into your hand. Create space between your heel and your bum. Without slingshotting the foot, come into a half moon. Inhale. Extended side angle. Step the right foot back. Reach the right arm forward. Take a full breath in. Exhale. Step to plank first and then lower to Chaturanga. Inhale to your back bend. Upward facing dog. Exhale to your downward facing dog. Lower your forearms and please meet me in dolphin. So your gaze is in between the forearms today. Your left leg lifts up, 3-legged dolphin. Option to stay here, but if you'd like those hops, take an inhale. Left leg stays straight. Bend, bounce into the right knee, and see if you can get some hang time here. So the left leg stays straight. The right knee is like buoyant and bouncy to start, but like the second it leaves the floor, try to straighten out both legs. So the straighter the legs are and the more that you reach, the stronger these shapes and the poses will be. A lot of times I'll see people kick up into inversions and they're just like flailing and kicking the legs in midair. Don't do that. Straight leg. So it's almost like a three-legged dog. It's almost like a warrior three-leg. And when you're done, please come into a child's pose. Take your hips to your heels, and if you would like to give your shoulders some rest, give your shoulders a break, reach the arms back and grab your heels. Woo! It's really hard to talk and demo at the same time. That's why I get really quiet when I'm teaching these. It's hard work, you guys. Whether it's your first time trying or your 100th time trying, it doesn't matter. That's one of my favorite things about yoga is there's no ceiling. There's always ways we can do more if we want to, you know? And I think we all want to, right? 5, 4, 3, 2, sit up on your shins on 1. Stand up on your shins, and we're going to do 2 camel poses today. So, come into this position and press your feet and shins into the floor. And I want to reintroduce this interlace with the hands behind the head and our back bends. If you can see your elbows in your peripheral, open up the arms more until you can't. Press the feet and the shins down and lift the head up towards the ceiling. So initially, we begin to establish the action of lengthening in 2 separate directions. Start to walk your gaze up the front wall. Maybe you look up and you find where the wall meets the ceiling in front of you. And continue to lift off the waist, off the ribs, out of the crown of the head. So what you have here is a pretty honest back bend because you don't have the luxury of using your hands. You're not going to go as far as you could if you could use your hands. But once you feel you've gotten what you can get out of that variation, bring your hands to your butt, your hamstrings, and find a more conventional Uttanasana shape. Unless you were really enjoying the hands behind the head. Imagine that there's a string attached to your heart, pulling you up to where the wall meets the ceiling in front of you. Inhale, stand up on your shins. Hinge at your hips, sit your butt down. Close your eyes and lower your chin to your chest. Okay. Let's do one more. Stand up on your shins. And then when you interlace, do the opposite interlace with the hands. So it's the weird one this time. Press the feet into the floor. Lift off the belly. Reach the crown of the head up into the air. If you can see your elbows in your peripheral, open up more until you can't. Walk your gaze up the front wall. Walk your gaze up into the ceiling. Imagine that someone has you by a string, pulling you up by your heart. Feet and shins are pressing down. Butt is pressing forward. Lots going on here. And then if you want a little bit more, put your hands on your butt, your hamstrings, and if they're available to you, grab your heels. So even for me, like this is a pose I traditionally modified most of the time. And I never want you to feel bad about modifications. As long as you're moving mindfully and with intention, that's a good yoga practice. You know, it doesn't always have to be like the most Instagrammable shapes, right? Inhale, stand up on your shins. Exhale, sit down on your heels. Close your eyes and lower your chin to your chest. 5 breaths. Smooth and steady, in and out of the nose. Control the exhales. The inhales usually are pretty good, I would say, but it's the exhales that tend to get away from us. Flutter your eyes open. Take a moment, side sit, so you can swing the legs out in front of you. Bend into your knees, step your feet down onto the floor, and lie down on your back. So we're gonna do one more back bend here today, starting with the bridge, and then I'll give you an option to take a wheel. Press your feet down and lift your hips off the floor for bridge. If you're staying with bridge, snuggle the shoulders underneath you. And if you want to do something with your hands, you can absolutely do something with your hands. But if you want a little bit more, if you want wheel, bring your hands out wide to frame your face. And on an inhale, come up onto the crown of the head first. Wheel pose is the exhale. Straighten out your arms and press your feet down and forwards. I'm going to get quiet because back bending and talking at the same time is really hard. But try to get 8 breaths here. And then when you're over it, make your way back to the floor and set up for constructive rest. So the feet are wide and the knees knocked together to touch. The eyes are closed. You're trying to bring a little bit more softness back into your breath. Hug the knees into the belly, into your chest. Scoot your hips significantly over to the right. And then find a simple twist over to the left. The right arm reaches off to the side, and if it's okay on your neck, your gaze goes over your right hand. Both the shoulders are down. Imagine you can send the breath in and out of the collarbone, in and out of your shoulder, throughout the right side waist. And eventually come back through center. Take your time. Second side, scoot your hips significantly over to the left. Simple twist to the right. Maybe the gaze goes over the left hand if that doesn't bother the neck. And when you twist, don't forget to keep both your shoulders down. And notice where the mind wanders. And when it does wander, use the breath, use the pose, bring it back in. Bring the mind back into the body. And eventually come back through center. Hug the knees back into the belly, back into the chest. And rock your way up into a comfortable seat. So I'm going to turn to face you real quick just so I can show you what I'm doing with my legs as we set up for double pigeon. Put the right shin on top of your left shin. So you have this shin to shin connection. I think you can see that. I'm sorry if the phone is cut or the camera is cutting off what I'm doing. If you need a modification, like if you look like this, take a cross-legged seat with the right shin in front of the left shin. This might not look like much, but I promise it's a really great alternative to double pigeon if this is something you struggle with. Walk your hands forward and fold. Like even if double pigeon is something that like sometimes you can, get really accessibly, not every practice, not every day is going to be exactly the same. Maybe you're a little tighter today, in which case I would invite you to try out the modification with the right shin in front of the left shin. Keep the weight right in the center of your pelvis. If you're folding, feel free to keep your head and neck heavy as you lift out of the belly. Find your breath. Take about maybe like 4 more rounds here. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, upright your seat. Straighten the legs in front of you. Maybe give them a little pat out on the floor. Second side. Left shin on top of the right shin or left shin in front of the right shin, depending on what you did on the first side. Keep the length in your spine. Walk your hands forward and fold. 1 minute. So the objective here is not to fold as far as you can. The farther forward you go with your arms and your upper body, the more the weight is going to be distributed forward towards the front of your seat and pelvis. Keep the weight right in the middle of your hips. And then lift out of the belly. Lengthen the heart forward, but feel free to relax through the neck. Feel free to allow the head and neck to be heavy, but continue to keep the activation in the rest of your body. Inhale is lengthen. Exhale, come up into your seat. Hands are behind you, legs are in front of you. Shake the backs of the thighs out onto the floor. We'll meet in Shavasana. If there is anything I have not offered you yet here today that your practice isn't complete without, take these last few moments of class for yourself. And if you're staying with me in Shavasana today, I'll offer you 3 minutes to rest here. If you need more, take more. One more full breath in through the nose. Fill up the belly. Open up the mouth on your exhale, side out. No more work. No more effort. Shavasana. Shavasana. Begin to deepen your breath. And invite some smaller movements back into your body. Wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes, the hands, and eventually your feet. Slowly bend into your knees, step your feet onto the ground. And roll off to either side into a fetal position and use your bicep as a pillow. So just giving yourself this extra moment on the floor as we transition from rest back into our day-to-day. Keeping the eyes closed and using as little effort as possible. Please come up into a comfortable seat. Facing your monitors, facing the front. To seal in your practice, please bring your hands to a prayer position at your heart. Guiding the thumb knuckles up and into your sternum, please invite a full breath in. Open up the mouth, exhale, clear it away. Thumb knuckles to your forehead, your third eye center. Thank you for sharing your practice with me today. Go in peace. Namaste. Thank you, yogis. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. And if you guys have any questions, if you have comments, feedback, or even concerns, let me know in the comment section below. That's it for me. I hope to see you soon. And thanks again. Bye.